So welcome everyone. I'm so delighted to see you all coming in here to be with us. I'm Gloria Lybecker, and I'm here to host my good friend and colleague, Dr. Marian Sides. And today she's going to be going into the second session, which will be focused on the immune system. So Marian, over to you.
Thank you very much, Gloria, and welcome everyone. It's good to see all of you, smiling faces, great support. Thank you, thank you. I am delighted and I'm honored to be able to share the second session, a second webinar of our series, Paradigm Shift for Health and Wellness. And our purpose, as we have already said it so many times, to create a paradigm shift in exploring how redox technology enables the body to heal itself. We do have one additional component to what we want to accomplish, which was the same as last time. It's a personal development component, and it is about learning. And we're going to be focusing on thinking effectively. And thinking effectively is one of the top life skills for adult learners as they list them. And learning is an ongoing process, and thinking effectively is also an ongoing process. And we want to understand what we are to learn to grasp the simplicity and the clarity of the immune system and how it connects with our body's work processes, and what is the impact of redox technology with its connection with the immune system. And that's very challenging because the immune system is a very complex system, as we all know, and we want to simplify it because remember, we don't need to be doctors here. We are associates, we are educators, and we are learning together. And whether you are a guest here, whether you are a new associate with ASEA, or whether you are a seasoned associate, we are all here to learn. And I recall Jerry White, our ambassador Diamond, has taught us that three strands that are connected and intertwined can never be broken. So tonight, as we share together, we are numerous strands. And the acronym TEAM, together, each of us accomplishes more. And we are going to learn together, even though we're not going to have the dialogue that I would love to have. We would never get finished because there's so much to learn and so much to share. I'm going to ask that you hold your questions until the question and answer time. Just jot them down. And we have a very exciting, it's very intriguing and very inspirational. I don't want to call it exciting testimonial that is going to wrap it all up after I get through the taxonomy of thinking as it connects with the immune system. We're going to look at this individual's immune challenges and what she's experienced, and some of what we're going to be sharing here, what I'm going to be sharing, she's also going to be bringing up. So it links and aligns beautifully, and you'll enjoy that. So let's go ahead then and begin with the next phase here, and that is understanding the paradigm shift. Now, the levels of thinking I'm going to talk about later, but the first level is knowledge, and the way you learn knowledge and the way you gain information at that first level is to memorize. And the memorization is usually memorizing definitions, memorizing facts and terms. So what is paradigm? What is a paradigm? How would we define it? A paradigm is a mindset. It's a way in which we think about a phenomenon, about a moment in time, about a thing. And when we embrace and connect with a paradigm, we then guide our behaviors in that direction. It leads us in that direction. And what are we dealing with right now as far as a paradigm? I want to back up a little bit to maybe 100 years ago and look at the way the medical community mindset addressed illness and disease and health and wellness. We treated illness, we treated disease. And when people got sick, they went to the doctor to get treatment. that went along for quite a while. And then at one point, someone brilliantly said, why do we wait till we're sick to go to the doctor? Why don't we think about being proactive and maybe prevent some of these things? And that led to a paradigm shift. And that really was a big shift for a lot of people, because it meant changing our behavior. When you make a paradigm shift, you change your behavior. So how did we change our behavior? We started going to the gym, we started eating better. And then at one point, maybe around the 1980s and the 1990s, we decided that, oh, we're learning about antioxidants. Maybe we should take some vitamins and some minerals and some exotic juices and essential oils, and as supplements to what we're doing, we can be better, more healthy, and it'll really prevent us from getting sick. So that paradigm shift is actually waning and on its way down with the advent of the redox technology paradigm. And that is, again, challenging. It's just beginning in terms of the general public understanding and learning about it. And the big question is, how do we help people get over that threshold? If they take this water in this blue bottle, these molecules are going to enable the body to heal itself. Like, who would believe that? Well, that's our challenge, is to actually get people to reach that level of thinking. That's a big shift. That's a big shift. And as educators, we are the ones who are out there as credible messengers to share this opportunity. And we need to know, well, what are we going to be doing and how are we going to be thinking when we help people make that shift? Well, I decided that there are several steps in that shift. And the first is you take a leap of faith. And what is that? Well, if somebody says to you, you know, you should really start to take this, it's really good for you. Okay, if you say so. Okay, if you say so. That's taking a leap of faith, but it's also trusting and believing in that person's recommendation. So when we are out there looking for people, you know, our warm market, people we know, trust, and love, are the ones who trust us. And if these people we're meeting, we don't know them, we have to quickly establish a rapport with them in the right way, by just having a casual conversation and then listening for needs and wants. And when you are able to suggest that there might be a solution to their needs and wants, that is a smooth transition into helping them to take a look at this. So what we do after we have this leap of faith, we need to anchor that faith in something, and that something is knowledge and understanding. Let me explain a little bit to you about what's going on in your body when you're taking these molecules, something like that. We are educating them. Or they take that leap of faith and they jump over the understanding and they just say, well, let me take it. If you think I should take it, I'll take it. And then they have an experience, and that experience brings them over into belief. So that's the next level. You anchor their leap of faith into understanding or experience. And one of those two things, or both of those two things, is going to get them to the third step, which is believing. We believe when we reach that level. And sometimes you have to see it before you believe it. And sometimes you can believe it before you see it. Whatever works works, and that's good. So after you see it and you believe it, you begin to develop confidence. You develop confidence in your ability. And when you develop confidence, you have a whole different attitude and a whole different demeanor, because there's something that's anchored in your own way of thinking, that you know this is working and you understand why it works, and you aren't timid about sharing it. So once you have the confidence, you are believing with confidence, and it motivates you to want to share. And you will also begin to share with enthusiasm. And that enthusiasm is an awareness that, wow, I'm a gift. I have a gift. I have a gift to share. And if I don't share it, shame on me. I'm hoarding this opportunity. I'm hoarding hope. I'm hoarding potential abundance, whether it's being a customer or whether it's joining the business. There's abundant opportunity all the way around. And we do have an obligation now that we know this. And then we share with enthusiasm. And when we share with conviction and enthusiasm, we are more effective. So those are the steps to how we bring someone over the threshold from just a leap of faith to sharing it with enthusiasm, conviction, and confidence. And that someone might be yourself. I'm sure that all of us here today have gone through these steps faster some than others, but we're there, but no one else is there. So we are approaching new people. We have to realize their mindset isn't where our mindset is. So we can't pounce on them and go for the throat. We do have to be cautious and realize that these are the steps. Someone that doesn't know anything about this, we have to start from the beginning. So with that, let's go to sharing the screen. Gloria, with the signaling at the genetic level. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I think this is the most profound piece of research that I've seen with Torrey Laboratories in this study. I'm not going to go through the study, but the 5 pathways that we're looking at here are inflammatory response, which we did last week. We're doing the immune system today. And then we have the other 3 remaining. And they're standalone modules, so they don't have to be connected with each other. And some of what we're doing is going to be repetitive because there's such a strong connection between the inflammatory response and the immune system. So it's very much aligned and connected with each other. And what does it mean when a genes signal? Our genes can determine who we are. And they determine who we are because of the DNA and the genetic component of our makeup. And one of the expressions of a gene would be what color of eyes you have. Are they brown? Are they blue? Are you 5'10"? Are you 6'2"? These are all characteristics of who we are. And what this study has demonstrated that redox technology and the redox molecules have burrowed its way into creating these pathways by signaling down to the genetic level, and they have impacted and influenced the gene expression. Not that your eyes color is going to change or your height's going to be different, but our health in these pathways don't have to be determined by ancestry genes. We can do lifestyle change, take the redox molecules, and these molecules will enable our body to strengthen our immune system and to exponentially grow the glutathione, which is the body's innate antioxidant. And this, what we're drinking here in the bottle, is generic to our composition. It's innate to our body, and this is extremely powerful. So what do we see when this kind of signaling happens and the gene expression changes? Because it enables our body to be stronger. it says it right here that signaling pathways up to 31%, actually that's 31% all the way to 48% for the cardiovascular health. So let's say we have activated those gene signaling pathways to enable our body to improve our own health up to 48% in cardiovascular health, which means we don't have to expect that if our father had a heart attack or 2 heart attacks and has many heart problems, that we are going to have the same problems. That it means that we have a percentage ability to be able to maybe never have. I mean, we can't be absolutely certain, but this is what this is saying. This is so powerful. And the redox technology, it's almost like a miracle that it's able to enable our body to improve our opportunity to be healthy in these areas. So I just wanted to review that, because sometimes when we say words like gene expression and we continue to say, you know, the gene expression in these pathways, everybody doesn't know what a gene expression means. So we have to not take for granted that they're going to know these terms. So the expression of our genes is different with the activation with the redox technology, and to our favor to have the potential of being more healthy if we take a redox. Okay, so I think that's all I want to say about the gene expression. And I do have another model now that I want to share, and that is the Bloom taxonomy model. And thank you, Dr. Philippe, for color coding this beautifully. And what he has done is taken, these 2 models are really saying the same thing, but the one on the left is depicting it in a clinical scenario. And this clinical scenario isn't connected with redox technology. It's not connected with what we do to help people get better, but is one that I think you can relate to, because it is showing that they're doing CPR. And so I want to say a couple of things before I go through the taxonomy here. This taxonomy was developed by Dr. Benjamin Bloom. He is considered to be the father or even the grandfather of mastery learning all around the world. I used to see his name in headlines in the newspapers in different parts of the UK and China and everywhere in terms of elementary education and helping children learn. And it has 6 levels, and they represent complexity. The lowest level is the more simple, and then it goes up to the top. There's one level that moves around, and that's analysis. And I'll explain that after I go through the CPR model. I'm going to go through the staircase model using the immune system as the example. And one more thing I want to clarify here, knowledge at the bottom of the staircase is what we gain and what we learn. This memorization on the left, in this clinical scenario, it simply means that the knowledge is gained through memorizing. The knowledge is gained through memorizing. So taking that model, what are we memorizing? First of all, for these people who are healthcare providers are effective, for them to be effective in resuscitating that individual, they need to have a baseline knowledge of what oxygenation means and what circulation means, because those are the 2 fundamental concepts here. Oxygenation being the exchange of the elements between the atmosphere and our lungs, and circulation is distributing the oxygen around to our body to nurture our cells. And in comprehension, in this model here, it means that those 2 things are not happening. So how do they know that? They know that they need to check a pulse. They know that they need to check the airway. And they also need to look at the person and see if they're conscious. And this sounds very obvious. That's why I'm using it as an example, because it's demonstrating what does comprehension mean when you know that then memorized concepts are not functioning the way they should. We're seeing alterations. And if you see an alteration that all three of these components that I just said, it means that they need to be resuscitated, to be brought back to consciousness. And I'll just leave it at that. And the analysis that you see over on the left, some of it was done by taking a look at the comprehension and looking at how do these three things relate. If they don't have a pulse and they're not breathing and they're not conscious, this person could die. But if they had a pulse and they were not breathing and they weren't conscious, you would not do the CPR. And these people know that because of the analysis of the connection of those three components. So after the resuscitation, there is a synthesis, and a synthesis simply is creating a plan. So that group of providers up on the right top are creating a plan to redetermine what is the method of treatment that this person is going to require after being resuscitated by reanalyzing the status of that person. And then they're going to evaluate. They're going to look at, was our intervention effective? Is the plan good? Do we need to revise the plan or not? And that illustration appears in the third edition of my book, A Test-Taking Learning Strategies for Nurses. And I want to give credit to Tom Ingram, who was the illustrator in that book. And there's a number of other illustrations, but I wanted to acknowledge him. So with that, I want to now take us over to the taxonomy, and I'm going to share the information relevant to the immune system. And lower level knowledge, the first level, it's facts or simple definition. So what is the immune system? Well, it's a system that protects the body from harm. So that's what it does, but how do you define it? Well, the immune system is an intricate collection of specialized and not so specialized cells and structures that identify and destroy foreign invaders before harm is done to the body. So it actually is our reconnaissance and our vigilance, our antennas. That immune system is working nonstop, constantly defending our body against invaders. And that is a definition of knowledge. If we look at comprehension, what comprehension means, it means that we are understanding what is going on in the body when that immune system is doing what it's supposed to do. And there are three parts to that comprehension. You want to be able to grasp these, the meaning. And the first is what I just said. It's understanding what is happening in the body when the immune system is doing the job to protect it. And the second component is understanding what is happening when something goes awry and when the immune system isn't doing the job because maybe it's weak. Maybe we don't have the molecules. You know that every 10 years, we lose 10% of the molecules that we got at birth to keep us healthy. And if we don't have enough of those molecules, it's in combination with the immune system isn't going to be able to do the job. So we need to know that that is what's going to happen. And then we will have oxidative stress and disease. And the third component is understanding the role of redox and how it replenishes the body's ability to strengthen the immune system. Those three descriptors explain what comprehension is. It means you understand, and it means that you grasp what your body is doing. And the third level is application, and it means taking action or intervening in some way. And for us, that intervention is giving redox, or maybe it's doing Renew 28, application of Renew 28. And it also means that you're immersing yourself into understanding a clinical scenario. And in case we're going to be doing that later, in understanding the scenario of this individual who's going to describe the compromise of her immune system, what happened to her. And I want you to listen to her, what she's describing. And I want you to listen carefully what happened to her body and understand why the immune system is doing what it's supposed to do along with redox. The next level is analysis. Now, here's where I said before, sometimes analysis is going to come before application. It depends upon how complex the problem is. If you had a headache, you would grab the Tylenol bottle and pop one, and that's the end of that. You didn't have to sit and just ponder about it all. That's one variable there, headache. Now, in this case, what are we wanting to analyze? There are a number of components and elements that have relevance to the whole. And we have a wellness tracking, a wellness tracker, and those elements are listed there. There's about 10 of them. And what we do is gather that information, and then we understand, okay, they don't sleep well. Okay, they have discomfort at this level. Okay, they've got memory mind fog. And we get a sense of where they are within that rating on that particular element of the whole person. There are also some other elements that's important. One of them, that you have a person who's starting to take redox, you're gonna know about what age they are. You might not know exactly, but when you know the age, you immediately can calculate, wow, they've lost 50% of their molecules because they're 50 years old. So they're compromised. So you want to keep that in your mind. And then you want to say, okay, is this person taking redox because of prevention purposes? Do they want to stay healthy? They have no known problems. That would be prevention. Or does the person have an issue? Does the person have one issue, 2, 3, 4? That will matter as well. How long have they had these? Have they had them for a long time? Have they had oxidative stress for years and years? And all of a sudden it's peaked here? These are all variables, components of the whole. And that process of analysis takes a look at all of that. And when you put them all together, it spells something in your thinking. You're realizing, okay, and one more thing there, it's the attitude and the ability of the person to understand compliance. And this, I think, is an issue that we see a lot when we have people that skip it for one day and then they don't take it for a week, and then they come back and take it for a day and they say this doesn't work. Well, that's a compliance issue, or an understanding based, a lack of understanding, which leads to non-compliance. This analysis for us is it can be complex, but it's within our realm of being normal individuals that have an intelligence, but not a certification in anything. Everybody can do this. So that I hope it makes a bit of sense about analysis. And then with synthesis, after we look at all of those components, we start our clients out on something. Usually it's 2 ounces twice a day. But with all of what I just described, if they had many of these things in terms of multiple issues, we might want to fast forward them to 8 ounces after a short period of time. If somebody has bad cells, they're going to need more than 2 ounces in the morning and 2 ounces at night. So the plan is our synthesis of our thinking that produces a plan of action. And that plan of action is level 3, but we might be reanalyzing and then going back to level 3. See, these things work together. And then the last level is evaluation. And we are then taking a look at where they are. And when we have a results tracker baseline, on day one, and then 7 days later we do it again. We are comprehending and understanding, and we know what they took. That was the application. We know what we analyzed, and now we're saying, how does this point measure up with where we were in day one? And that's evaluation. You're looking for results. That's why it's called a results tracker. We're looking for results. And then we reevaluate and we go back to the drawing board and say, let's make a change here. And those are the 6 levels. And what I want to do right now, just to wind this up, as far as the levels of thinking, I want to take us back to comprehension. And then Gloria, if you put up the immune system's cast of characters. Now, this is a busy slide, and I'm not expecting you to digest the whole thing, but I'm going to give you some general verbiage here. And this system is likened, to me, it's likened to an Army National Guard. And this is a war zone. Did you ever think or know that this is what's going on inside your body? And we take it for granted. And to our benefit, and I think this is a great gift to us to have an opportunity to have our attention drawn to what is really going on inside our body. And that first creature at the top is really the garbage filter. When there's a war going on, all of these organisms are working to keep our body healthy and to prevent invaders. And each of these characters represents a branch of the immune system. And all of these cells or structures are white blood cells. This is our white blood cell component. And they just divide themselves up into branches like this. And that one at the top, when these organisms are killed, that they're out to kill, this RES, the reticular activating system, will remove the garbage from the bloodstream and haul it away like a waste management would. And that's really what's going on. And so we look at the second bird up there. This is the non-specific effector cell, and they act on their own. They don't need to work in coordination with anybody. They act on their own, and I call them like the special forces, like the Navy SEALs. They come in, and they come in without any prior stimulation from other cells. The next one, the humoral immunity branch, it uses antibodies to attach to the invaders. And then they signal other immune cells to come, okay, we got them, we've attached to them, now haul them away. And the complement is actually sort of a relay. They will signal to other immune cells. So they're duly certified. They have 2 roles. They either work by themselves or they might signal to others. And then the last one is the cell-mediated immunity branch. And it really collects and coordinates and creates team activity, and they work together. So this is the immune system in action. And I want to give credit to Jeff Bagish in his book, How the Immune System Works. And the illustrator was Scott McNeil, because they don't list that over there. And this is our immune system at the level of comprehension. If we were to say, what is our immune system when it's working to protect us for outside invaders, what is it actually doing? This is what it's doing. And you can sum it up by just saying that they are working to identify our cells that need to be destroyed because they're invaders. I have a couple more things I want to say here. Sometimes our immune system becomes so aggressive that it overattacks and it overshoots what it's really intending to do. And one example might be an allergic reaction. It's an excessive response to something as mild as pollen, and it overreacts. And even worse than that, the system could make a mistake when the white blood cells are doing what they're supposed to be doing. They make a mistake and they interpret them as foreign intruders, and they will attack the body. I call this friendly fire, and this causes an autoimmune disease. An example of autoimmune in the blood would be leukemia. And right now I should say that we are not treating and diagnosing or curing anything. I'm using these terms just to demonstrate what an autoimmune disease is, because we're trying to understand levels of thinking. So excess inflammation in the body are the cause of a lot of autoimmune diseases, and rheumatoid arthritis being another. There are more than 80 autoimmune diseases in our package. So then the last thing about this is what we already know, that when we bring somebody into using redox signaling molecules, they will communicate with our cells in the impaired areas and bring reinforcement to whatever the pathway is that's affected. And they over time will repair these damaged cells and boost the effectiveness of our body's own antioxidants. So that's the bottom line here. And so today we're discussing the immune system and the redox influence, and we're wanting to understand at the comprehensive level what's going on in our bodies when our immune system works properly, what's going on when it's not working properly, and what does it look like as far as the body's manifestation of changes when redox molecules enable the body to heal itself. So to give us a holistic view of all of this, I would like to have us look at this testimonial. And Gloria, could you bring that up? And we'll watch this. Number 108.
Okay, Kayleen, thank you for joining us on our call here tonight. You are from Florida, and you've been using our technology for, I think, 5 years.
That's right.
5 years, yeah. But your story goes back 25 years, I believe. So
yeah.
why don't you tell us your ASEA story?
Yeah, it's good to sort of give a frame of reference on why this has been so life-changing for me. So right when I finished university, I went to go do international development work in northern Ghana, West Africa. And I was going to be living with in a remote tribal community. And so I was advised at the time in preparation to take several, what we would call preventative vaccines with all the tropical diseases that we don't need to deal with, thankfully, in the US. And particularly because I was going to be away from normal Western medical resources. And so it was, in a sense, a preventative type of thing, right? And then, unfortunately, after my time in Africa, probably within about a year and a half, I got really, really sick, deathly ill, in fact, to the point where I was in bed for almost the better part of 2 years, getting to work, but, just with extreme exhaustion, low energy, skin and bones, unable to, it seemed to just really absorb, food and anything I was putting in the body, and really struggling. And the doctors, as they tried to sort out what was going on, said to me once, basically it was triggered a whole bunch of autoimmune type things, right? Autoimmune conditions, and probably things with, that we would say the endocrine system, hormonal. And they just said, there's nothing we can do for you. Any pharmaceutical medicine we would give you would probably kill you at this point, because I had very high levels of toxicity in my blood.
Mhm.
And so they told me to get my affairs in order. And that was a big wake up call. I was 23. I think I woke up the next day or a few days later. I looked in the mirror and it was like a come to Jesus moment. I went, I don't think I'm done yet. This girl's, I'm still on fire here. We're going to do something about this. And I realized I had to learn a new paradigm on how to create wellness in my body, how to get my body to heal, because the medical model that I knew didn't have the resources for me at that time. It's a great model, but I was told, we can't do anything for you. So I started my journey at that point, working with Chinese medicine and a homeopathic physician, again, years ago. It took about 5 years, but I was able to rebuild and get the body to rebuild and repair, right? With those technologies, those resources, and kept a really good, like, clean food program and really good nutrition for years. But my new normal, I was very happy to be alive, but I had what I considered permanent disabilities. And that was essentially really never sleeping through the night for over 2 decades, maybe 2 hours here and there. So I had to deal with, mental exhaustion, brain fog, kind of dragging my body around and making it produce. And it really affected my life. It affected my social life. It was hard to go out with friends because I might have to be in bed for a few days. It was hard to really progress in my career, over the years, because I would have to choose things where I could give myself the time, if I needed, to go rest the body and recover from whatever it was reacting to. So it was tough.
Yeah. So what happened?
Yeah. So then, okay. So now connecting it to ASEA, about 5 years ago, actually a fairly new friend at the time, and a total stranger, believe it or not, shared ASEA with me. I was helping at a charity event, and I met this wild, Australian businessman. Some of you may know, Dan Doyle, and, through my friend Maurizio Munoz. And I said, what do you do? And he goes, I travel around the world and I share this health breakthrough with people because it saved my life from my reality. And I went, whoa, I want to know about that. I was always studying, technologies, things to help me. So we met, and he shared his story and how it changed his life. And then, and I looked at the science, I looked at the research. I went, okay, it's safe, it's non-toxic. This is something new. This is a communication technology. Let's see what this will do. And, we're told, and it makes sense, give it 90 days. But honestly, I would say within my first 10 days, I slept through the night for the first time in over 2 decades. And I can tell you, for any of you that have ever had a sleepless night, I mean, I don't have language for how unbelievably beautiful that was. And, just wow, if nothing else happens with this product, the fact that I actually slept through the night and continued to from that point forward was unbelievable. But then really, Alan, the real magic happened at around 3 to 3.5 months. And I went, oh, I get why they say 90 days, because it's sort of like someone turned on the light switch in my body. And I woke up one morning and I was actually exercising. I think I was doing a yoga class, and I felt this unbelievable, like, good sensation in my body that I hadn't felt in years. And I'm like, what is that? And the answer I got back was that my cells were full of joy. It was like I was feeling joy on a cellular level. And then I went, when I looked at my energy over the next few days, probably I'd been operating on a scale of 1 to 10 chronically for, a few decades, at maybe a 3, with 10 being great energy. And that day when I woke up, I was at a 12, and I've never gone back. It's helped me rebuild my body from the inside out and give me a level of vitality and energy and wellness and rest, because I sleep now, that I honestly never thought would be possible in my lifetime ever again.
Absolutely incredible story. I mean, to put that in perspective, 20 years to over 2 decades of not sleeping. I mean, gosh, if I just get 1 or 2 bad nights sleep, I'm like a bear with a sore head. I mean, I can't imagine over 2 decades. And then 10 days introducing this signaling technology to your body. And again, you've been very proactive in health. You had to, go search other modalities, Chinese medicine, other things, and they took you so far. But when you can address the foundation of signaling that everything else is built upon, 10 days, your life changes and you sleep through the night. I think it's absolutely incredible story. And I loved what you said. Your cells were full of joy.
Yeah.
It's like this light. What do you say? It switched on a light inside you. How did you word that?
Yeah, it was like the light switch turned on in the
Light
body.
switch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Exactly.
Absolutely incredible. I can just hear your cells singing, you know,
Yeah.
they're communicating and singing. And yeah, it's an amazing story.
And I can tell you there's a benefit. Like, I've continued to faithfully stay on. In fact, I use all the products, literally the skincare, I love it all. But it's the cumulative effect. It's like the longer I'm on it, I just get more and more phenomenal surprises. And I'm amazed at really the majesty of our body to repair, you know, and given the right tools, being able to be in full communication with itself and all of its systems. So it's magical. So, you know, if anybody is looking at this and wondering, maybe you're already having wins, should you stay on the product? Stay on it, because the preventative benefits, even when you achieve that state of vitality you're looking for, unbelievable, really, for both me and my family. We're all on the products.
Yeah, I love it. And, you know, this introduces, obviously, what I have to say here is, you know, you're talking about a resource for the body, but it's the majesty of the body. The body is the miracle. We are simply giving it this very powerful resource, a resource that's already native to our bodies, but we don't have enough of it, or with stress and toxins, etc., it begins to get out of balance. And so we're introducing really a rebalance of these molecules back into our body. And it's simply a resource. So we like to say, look, really, our product does nothing. There's a great marketing pitch. Our product does nothing, but it empowers your body to do what your body naturally and natively wants to do. So I have to say to everybody, look, we don't make any medical claims for ASEA Redox. It's not a treatment or cure for any disease or medical condition. We're just simply giving the body this very powerful resource. It's not a nutritional resource. It's a signaling resource. But when you understand that we live and die at the cellular level, and if our 75 trillion cells are healthy, we're healthy. Those cells need to signal and communicate their messages for health and vitality, or as you said, their joy. I love that. I love it. So, Kayleen, thank you so much for joining us on the call here tonight. Absolutely amazing story. Really appreciate your time.
Okay, here we are back. Well, I think Kaylee reinforced all the basic principles that I shared this evening, and it kind of pulled it all together. It gave us a real view of one person's perspective on a paradigm shift and the oxidative stress her body went through for 20 years. And I think it's important to know that when somebody comes to you and they have had oxidative stress for 20 years, it can't get turned around overnight. So when we say give it a try for 90 days, that's just a drop in the ocean to try to overcome 20 years of stress. And she believed in it, as you could see, and what a great example, a testimonial of all these principles. I want to share one more thing here, actually two things. The title of our series does talk about the paradigm shift, a holistic model. And it's important to know that we just can't take the molecules by itself and expect a miracle. We need to bathe the redox in an environment that's conducive to giving the molecules the benefit to allow the body to heal itself. What I mean by that, the environment, meaning that lifestyle change. When you do a paradigm shift, and the paradigm shift is moving from getting sick and getting treatment to wellness and being proactive, and you want to take the redox, we have to know that there are like maybe 6 different components that contribute to the holistic model. The mindset is the mental component, and you have to have the right attitude and the right demeanor, and the 6 steps I gave you earlier, believing in it and being enthusiastic about taking it and being compliant. But you also have to have hydration. We need, there are a couple of guidelines out there on this, but a half of your weight in ounces, so whatever your weight is, cut that in half, and that's the number of ounces you should be taking every day as a general guideline. So hydration, sleep, you need to sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. That's kind of a general guideline for adults. And exercise, you should exercise 4 times a week, at maybe 3 times, 5 times, 4 times, whatever, for 45 minutes to get your heart rate up. Aerobic exercise, and flexibility and balance are very important as well. Nutrition, go back and take a look at what's a good balanced nutrition. And stress management is critical. And I don't want to list any of these in a hierarchical way in terms of what's more important. They're all important. And if we're going to take redox molecules or use the Renew 28, we want to create the environment within our own bodies to make it conducive for it to do the job properly. And I wanted to mention that. We might go into some of those a little more in depth in future sessions, but that's it for right now. The last thing I want to do, and then after that, we're going to have open for discussion, your questions or contributions. I wanted to just share with you a second testimonial, which is my own testimonial with an autoimmune disease. And this started, so if we can switch over to the screen share. And this can look overwhelming, but I'm going to try to get I'm not able to get my picture. Do I hit? Oh, there we go. I did that. Okay. So this graph is a trajectory of inflammation, and the immune system is connected with the processes. And Gloria is in control of the pointer here. So if we look at the dates on the left-hand side, March 24, 2020, and we went all the way to January 24, 2022. I want to thank Diana Pedersen. She's on the call here tonight for her creating this graph. I mean, it's brilliant the way she put all this together. I gave her a bunch of raw data over this period of a couple years, and she put this there. And these are the variables that we are looking at. And the bottom left is the blue line. And then you can see the trajectory of the blue line. It goes across from left to right. And that's one of the inflammation markers. And then the gray line is representing the steroid that I was taking. And the yellow line is the ASEA that I was taking. And then the orange line is the sedimentation rate, which is another inflammation marker. Now, the orange line aligns with the scale on the right. And you can see that it goes all the way up to 70. Gloria, do you have your pointer or no?
The pointer will work if I don't have it full screen.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, then I'll try to explain this. The normal SED rate for females is 0 to 20, and this graph goes up to 70. So if you take the 70, go all the way across to the left, you can see the orange line and the dot at the top. That's where my SED rate was. So you see it was way, 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 way above normal. So that's one problem. And if we want to look at the other marker, it's the blue line, and the scale for the blue line is on the left. So if you look at the number 5 and you see the first blue dot, that number was 3.4. And the number that the doctors wanted was 0.7. So you can see how high this was. And one more thing I'll point out, if you look at the top left again, where that orange line is at the very top, right below it is the gray, and that was the steroid level of 20. That's where we started. And that steroid yanked that SED rate all the way down. You can see how far down it goes, and it was down to almost a normal. And so the question here that we're asking is, what is the impact of ASEA and steroid as interventions on the immune system and inflammation as measured by two blood tests, which are the CRP and the SED rate. So to jump to the conclusion and what's the upshot of all this, if you go to the far right and look at the gray line, it's aligned with the 0. And if you back it up, the 5 dots, there's 2 dots on top of each other. Back it up for 5 dots, 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. It means that I was off of the steroid since November 21 all the way till now. I'm taking a SIA, and I started out with 10 ounces, came down, I'm sorry, 12, came down to 10, went up to 14, came down to 10. So the only intervention here is now is the ASEA. There is no more influence of the steroid. And with that, both of the inflammation markers are in the normal range. And so I'll repeat that because that's important. Since November, I have not taken any steroid, and I am taking ASEA, and the markers are normal. And the other piece of information, so the only thing that's influencing my levels is the ASEA, because there is no further steroid. To go back to the very beginning, I want to say that in conjunction with my doctor, and we worked together on this, she wanted the protocol for this condition, autoimmune, was to start out with 3 times the steroid as I took, plus another very potent chemotherapy drug. And I asked that we not do that. I said, I have another solution. I want to take ASEA, and I'll up my ASEA. Prior to this, I was taking it, but smaller doses. I'm going to bump it all up to 12, and I'll continue taking a low dose of the prednisone, of the steroid. And she said, we'd go with my plan, but if it didn't work, then we would, I said, we'll go back and look at your plan. But here's the benefit here. The body, and no matter whose body it was, the body of the client would not be subjected to the high level of the steroid over 2 years, and a drug that's a chemotherapy, very potent drug. And I didn't have to take that. So I took ASEA, and I have to say that I did have some behavioral lifestyle changes in terms of increasing my exercise, increasing my sleep, eating better. None of that was terrible, but I just made it better. And but stress management was a big factor there, due to workload and everything. So that I don't know. Let me see if there's anything else I should be pointing out here. The gray, the peak, that peak of the ASEA and the peak of the orange, I was hospitalized there. There was additional stress there. So that one lab went up, and then I brought my ASEA up, and then it brought it all back down again. And so this is a correlation of 4 variables, and this is truly analytic thinking. And when you put it in a graph like this, you see the relationship of them and the benefit of ASEA. Now, the trajectory and the trending that I really want to see, which will be meaningful, is what's going on way past the right, continue on for the rest of the year. Are we still going to see this? All we've seen since November, that's a beginning of a trend. And I believe that that trend will continue. So Gloria, back to you on, if we want to just get our pictures back up there. I have a couple things I want to say, and then we're going to open this up. I already said in a chronic situation, results don't happen overnight, which you could see that that's true. And Sometimes there's setbacks because if you're in oxidative stress for a long time, you're not going to see a continuation of the positive trend. You might see some, a backward movement. And the other thing I think is important is somebody had asked me, how did you decide how much ASEA to take? And what we know is we do not have, I guess the answer is I don't have a scientific basis because we don't have evidence-based science to guide dosage. What we have is correlation, we have trial and error, and then we have trends that tell us that with our past information on selective sampling or observation of our own environment, we know that, I think that the sweet spot for somebody with this would be 8 ounces. And then we bumped them up to 8, but that's yet to come as far as scientific psychometric on how much dosage one should take from a scientific perspective. That's going to be very difficult because the variables are just endless in human beings. It's very hard to control all of that. So what we do know though is that it's 100% safe. So if you go higher than you should, you're not going to overdose. There's no toxicity. It doesn't interact with any medications whatsoever. And again, it's 100% safe. So that would be how I would, sum that up. I would like to open up to comments, discussion, questions. We covered a lot of information here. And one of the things that I'm hoping that it opened up I call it the alveoli of the brain cells, of the fact that there is a method to our thinking. And we really, if we master the comprehension and the understanding, which is that second level, that's really, that would be good, because then we have insight in what's going on in our bodies and what's happening when they change. So questions, comments, impressions, anything. Dr. Philippe, I call on you again. You always have something to add. Appreciate their support.
I have a question.
I am still speechless. And this is a compliment, because you have covered all the angles I would have covered. So I understand everything. And you show well the universality, if I may use that word, of these redox molecules as per whatever one may need to recover or to enhance a state which is already satisfactory, but performance is not there. So it covers the whole spectrum. And I like when you mention all the environmental issues that we are exposed to in different ways, different situations with a different state of health or state of performance. And it shows that this application is absolutely universal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think universality is a good word that would encapsulate your presentation today. I like it very much.
Thank you. Somebody had a question. Who had a question?
I did. I liked your body war zone, and you had 4 different stages that you said. It was hard to read it all, but can you encapsulate just one short sentence about each of those stages of the war zone?
Sure. Well, the one that is easiest to understand is the RES, which is the waste management, or hauling away all the debris when these other branches of the immune system are in there killing what they're killing. And I think there's something else that I wanted to say. If we look at the scenario that bad cells or cancer cells are continuing to arise in our organs, and they're determined to multiply until they take over the entire body. And they're detected upon entrance. So rather than, and I will give 1 point for each of them, but I think it more at our level of trying just to understand it, they're all doing the same thing, but some of them are doing them by themselves. Some of them are doing them without being signaled by other cells. Some of them are working in teams, but what they're all doing when the bad cells enter the body, they are detected upon entrance by all 4 of these areas other than the haul away one. And they are tagged. And then there's a signaling alarm that goes off to alert all the branches of the immune system. And that's a communication that's almost like the 10:30 fire alarm that goes off in your community to warn people that this is an alarm. This goes off inside your body to those molecules. And at that time when that signal goes off, those bacteria, that viruses that have entered uninvitedly are already tagged. And then when that alarm goes off, it says bad cells in the house, bad cells in the house, bad cells in the house. And the immune system responds collectively. And they immediately pounce on the way that they're going to do from their own branch. And they then kill them, and they're hauled away by the RES. But back to your question, the RES is the one that hauls away all the debris that goes into the circulation. And then the next one down is the effector cells. And they come in without being notified by any other cells. And that's why I call it the Navy SEALs or the Special Forces, because they don't have any connection with the other ones. They just know they got a signal from somewhere, and they know to come in. And then the humoral immunity, which is the third one down, is the one that attaches to the antibodies. The antibodies attach to the invaders, and then they signal for some other group of cells to come and destroy them. So we capture the enemy, now come the recovery, the recovery forces should come in, and those could be the next one down, which is the complements. They work in groups that by themselves, or they're signaled separately. And then the last one coordinates. So you might need an entire reinforcement of the Army National Guard to come in. And the last one, that's called the cell mediated immunity, will coordinate all the cells, all of the reinforcement that is coming to get rid of these cells, these bad cells that are the bad cells, and we're not diagnosing, treating, or curing, but the cancer is the one that I was talking about when they put the alarm off. And sometimes when you are expecting the redox to be treating some part of your body, and you're taking it because you're expecting maybe some pain, some discomfort to be relieved, and it's not doing it, you might have had an emergency here where the Army Reserve had to be called in to get rid of these cells that came in and were uninvited, and they diverted the attention from the part of the body that was hurting. And that happens a lot because as we know, the redox molecules go to the area where your body needs it the most. And Barb last week shared her example, and I don't know if she's there. I don't see her right now.
No, she's had to leave.
Yeah, where for her, it went to other parts of the body before it went to the part that she thought she wanted to get healed.
Mhm.
Well, I kind of overdid that, Marian. Did it answer your question?
I love that. I'd never heard it as a war zone, and how the different parts of the immune system are our army that comes in. I think it's a beautiful demonstration. So thank you.
Well, goes back to the staircase. That's comprehension. And when I talked about comprehension, when we just had the staircase up, the taxonomy, there are 3 components. And one is, how do you know what your body's doing when you say it's doing what it's supposed to do? And so this is, now we know this is what it's doing. So it just kind of enlightens you to know what's going on inside your body. And if it's not doing that, then this is where we come in. It's because the immune system's weak, or we don't have the necessary molecules because of the erosion of the molecules. Every year we lose 10%. So we have to know that this is, I mean, everything we become aware of just adds more credibility and credence to this company. And the bandwagon we're on is absolutely amazing. To be so privileged to have an opportunity to be a part of this process of going from startup to momentum, because we're growing day by day as we become aware and the world becomes aware of this technology. I mentioned last week that in the dental offices now, they're starting to add a question on the assessment form of what are you taking? And it says, do you take redox? Just that, that's it, you know. I'm under, I don't suppose Lee Osler had anything to do with that, huh?
Very good. I love, Marian, how you brought to life the immune system by bringing in these different players and giving us a metaphor that could help us to actually see what happens within our system when they're fueled and replenished with the redox molecules. It's
It
beautiful.
just shows us the power of the redox, doesn't it?
Oh, it
Yeah.
does. It enhances it so much.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so I want to thank everyone for being a part of this gathering here today, and to acknowledge that there will be a change in the timeline of the remaining sessions, and that continuation is yet to be determined. But we will keep you posted when that will be.
Philippe had something he started to say. Thank you for that.
My apologies. Yeah. No, it was okay, Gloria, of course. But just to point out something, this is a part of what we know well in terms of homeostasis, in terms of stress adaptation or adaptation to stress, with this fly or fight, this choice, the body's intelligence is making decision about any single half second we live, what to speak. And this harmony with any other complex adaptive system we are made up with. So I mentioned the stress, but I mentioned also this homeostasis. I have a list of infinite number of references I could come up with to compare and integrate. Marian, you bring to the surface the body's intelligence. It is remarkable. And what we call body's intelligence, because of, we don't have a better word to use yet about that, but I think one is going to emerge at some point, to be specifically determining and defining that phenomenon. Marian, the other Marian, mentioned that she was amazed about this warfare model you came up with, but it is about trigger response, and this is what we live. We live in a binary world to some extent, far more sophisticated than any mosaic could represent. But it is that yes, no, yes, no, yes, no decision making we always experience and make unconsciously every millionth of a second in terms of adapting to what is and what is coming in all the time. This is an amazing, thank you for this synthesis very much.
It is so amazing, and homeostasis is what our goal to achieve in our bodies, and we have so many challenges, and you brought up some excellent points. So thank you for that contribution, and I think we are going over the time here, so I want to thank everyone for your participation, and Gloria, thank you for hosting, and we'll all see you all out there. And just learn and and know what you're learning when you're thinking. Be aware of your thinking, because that's a great learning process. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Marian.
this. God bless.